One of the interesting things about how humans are impacting oceans is that there are these things called global stressors that sort of appear all over the world. And then there's localized stressors, things that are more local to specific islands or reefs. And humans have this sort of ability to impact both global and local stressors. And one of the things that we're really interested in understanding is how more local stressors, things like plastics, might have an impact on local marine fauna.
Plastics are a type of chemical, actually, even though we think of them as being something hard. They are a polymer, and they exist in multiple forms in our environment. Microplastics are very, very, very tiny plastics. You can definitely see with the naked eye. A nanoplastic can be so small that it's almost the size of a virus.
Pilot has control.
Pull the pin.
Man-made.
Oh, it's marine debris.
Here we are, many hundreds of miles from the nearest human civilization, nearly 2,000 meters underwater, and human impacts have preceded us. We've also been seeing a lot of microplastics in samples. The majority of times we have been looking at samples under high magnification. Many of them have had little microplastics in them as well.
Yeah, just the fact that we got so little sediment and so much of it is plastic is freaky.
We found, for example, plastics have a negative effect on skeletal formation of calcifiers. And one of the things is that they can actually incorporate micro and nanoplastics into the skeletons of calcifiers, which is a very concerning thing because that actually breaks up the structural integrity of the skeleton itself.
This is all part of the Pacific garbage patch. Some of it gets sort of kicked out and it lands here on this beach. Koakako, Tokyo, Japan. This floated all the way from Japan to land here on this beach. Who knows how many years it's been out there.
So as we have these plastics washing up on the shoreline, they're not just sitting there at the surface of the beach. Instead, they do get mixed down and mixed into the beach sand. And then with time, when wave conditions are right, you actually have sand accumulating on beaches. And it's not just sand accumulating, but sand and plastics together.
I think a lot of people don't realize that this is the reality of the trash that is produced in the world, and it ends up in the ocean.
I think just about all marine organisms are being impacted by plastics, either directly or indirectly. And what I mean by indirectly is it's moving its way up through food chains.
Things that actually take food particles out of the water column, we're seeing that most of these organisms have microplastics in them at some point in their life, and that then can lead up to further impacts up the food chain.
The reason that's very worrying to me is because it's those very tiny pieces of plastic that are able to move into deeper parts of our body, possibly into our brains.
In the field of microplastics research, we're really at the beginning. We really want to understand the life cycle of the microplastics in the body. How do they get into the cells? What do they do when they're there? Do they leave? So we want to understand the full life cycle of the microplastics. So we are now investigating heavily how exposure to microplastics could result in Alzheimer's disease. We exposed animals for only 3 weeks via their drinking water. And we thought, probably not going to see anything. It's only 3 weeks. Every organ that we looked at in the body was touched by these microplastics. It was in the lungs, it was accumulating in the liver and the spleen, it was in blood, it was in kidney, it was in brain.
So this is like the whole brain section that you'd see. So you can tell it's very large. When you zoom in, that's where you can see the plastic.
To find that the microplastics were there, and again, not in cerebral spinal fluid, not in something circulating, but really in the deep tissue layers of the brain. That was alarming.
The amount of plastics that's being produced continues to go up, so we know that that is going to translate into more plastics in the ocean. This problem isn't going away anytime soon, and that's a big concern.
But there's a lot of evidence showing how much we need to decrease our plastic production. We can't wait. We can't wait another 5 years. We can't wait another 10 years. We need to do this.
One of the things that I am a big believer in is that there's always hope, and something that we need to focus on is solutions. The reason I do this is to find those nuggets of hope so that we can keep sharing those stories.